Hey guys, Matt Bell here at the Electric Violin Shop. Today we are going to be taking some questions that we get in the comments section of a lot of YouTube videos. We are approaching 20,000 followers on YouTube now, so thank you guys for hanging out with us. But with all those followers, we get a lot of questions in the comments section, and some of these may be questions that you have had too. So we're going to go through and answer just a few of them that we've gotten in the last couple of weeks. The first one is, I still need a B flat string. What are people using to improvise? I wish I had a better answer for you, but right now there are not any B flat strings available on the market. We are September of 2022, in case you're watching this at a later date. Sensicord, the company that made B flat strings, went under during the pandemic and were bought up by D'Addario. D'Addario has not started making those extended range strings yet, although they assure me it is coming at some point. We are working to get a solution either through D'Addario or through somebody else, but we do not have a solution at this point. So if you have a B flat string or if you have an octave C or something, my advice is hang on to that. There is not a replacement available as of yet. We are working on it. There are some other people working on it as well, and hopefully we'll have better news for you soon. But right now, sorry. Next question. Do you have a fretted violin without the piece of wood in the middle of the neck? You guys may notice on a couple of these questions, a number of the comments are coming from people who English is not their first language. We don't make fun of grammar and spelling mistakes. Obviously this person speaks French. Their English is way better than my French. So the question is there a fretted violin without a bout on it? And the answer is there are a number of them. NS Design makes one. You're like, sorry, but I'm looking at a bout on that neck. The bout's removable. There's a little thumb screw here. You can just take it off. And then this would be a fretted violin without a bout on it. The Viper also is a fretted violin without a bout. Jordan makes fretted violins without a bout. The bout on Zeta violins can also be removed. So yes, there are a number of fretted violins that either come without a bout or they have a removable bout, and that would solve your problem. So hope that's helpful. Does a classically trained violinist struggle to play a fretted violin? Generally at first they do, yeah, because it feels a little weird. For good intonation, they're used to placing their fingers exactly where the fret is. And then they're asking, would I put my finger just behind the fret? If you're a guitar player or a mandolin player, that's what you're going to think, right? That I'm going to put my finger behind the fret and just mash down, and the string's going to break over that fret, and it's going to sound in tune. I actually play right on top of the fret, and then I play with a fairly light touch. So I'm on top of the fret here. So you can sometimes if I push down a little bit, you can hear that fret in there. But generally, no, I play right on top of the fret. And yeah, so that feeling of playing on top of a fret is a little bit weird and takes some adjustment. But it's the right thing to do if you're playing with a fretted violin, and it's really going to give you the most control of the instrument, and it does allow you to do vibrato, glissandos. It allows you to adjust your intonation away from equal temperament to just temperament. It allows you to play the violin the way the violin is supposed to be played. It just there's a tactile confirmation that your finger is in more or less the right place when you push down on it. So frets are not magic. But they are a really nice landmark on a long fretless neck, especially if you're in a very loud environment that you cannot always trust your monitors to be taking good care of you. Those of you who play in rock bands, you know what I'm talking about. This was about flying with your violin. Somebody said, I thought you can bring a small instrument in addition to a carry-on and an additional bag. No, that's not true. In the United States, where I do most of my travel, you are allowed a carry-on and a personal item. Your violin is one of those two. So generally, I'll travel with a backpack and my violin. The violin goes in the overhead, the backpack goes under the seat. Nobody yells, everybody's happy. So no, you can bring a small musical instrument as your carry-on or as your personal item, and that's how that usually works. Looking at getting a YEV electric in black for Christmas. Noticed you didn't have any in stock. So any instrument, especially one as popular as a YEV, over the last year or two, you guys may have noticed that there are some supply chain issues. What you're hearing in the news about the supply chain crisis is true. It's real. Most companies are kind of battling with getting supplies in themselves so they can make these instruments. And then there's shipping issues, and we live in a pretty crazy world right now. So those instruments, occasionally, we will not have any in stock. We do have some in stock right now. I'm looking at one on the shelf. I think that's a natural, not a black. But here's what I would do. On our website, when you go to click on the instrument page, you go to the instrument where it is, and right underneath the price, there's a little line that says notify me when this instrument is in stock. If you click on that, you can put in your email address and the system will notify you as soon as we get one in, and you can buy that sucker real fast. So yeah, we do continually get them in. We'll get them in batches. They sell pretty fast. But yeah, the quickest way to make sure you're on the list is underneath the price on the product page where it says notify me. Click on that and we'll let you know. Somebody was asking about different effects on different bowings. Yeah, so a lot of people think that when we're using effects on electric strings, you just kick a button and the pedal does all the work, right? So you would actually, I guess maybe people are led to believe that those pedals can do things that they can't do. You still have to play the instrument. And ideally, you would get as much of the sound that you're hearing in your head, you know, that sound that you want to hear in your ear, but you do hear it in your head. Get as much of that as you can from your right and left hand, and then use the pedal to get the rest of it. Okay, does that make sense? If I want a really bitey, grabby sound, I don't just crank the distortion. I'm going to play the violin in a very aggressive and bitey way, and then I'm going to add as much distortion as I need to get me the rest of the way there. Okay? If I want a very sweet sound, I'm going to play the violin as sweetly as I can, and then I'm going to use EQ and reverb and delay to get me the rest of the way. But yeah, Rudolf Haken, who's the electric violin professor at the University of Illinois, said, in this race to understand effects, we've somehow forgotten that we actually play the instrument. So make sure that you're getting as much of the sound as you can get from the instrument, and then use the effects to get the rest of it. I hope that's helpful. Yeah, there's another video said, what's the cheapest violin on Electric Violin Shop? So we have 3 violins that are in the sort of $600 to $700 range. The Yamaha YEV is one. The NS Design Wave is another. And the Aurora Oro is the third one. 3 outstanding violins, fairly different from each other, but yeah, great violins. So I'd say in that $600 to $700 range, and I wouldn't be interested in any violin below that. That kind of seems to be the price floor for electric violins that are worth messing with. So yeah, there are 3 in that price range, and they're all, yeah, they'd all be a good choice for you. Can you plug the YEV straight into the Bose S1 Pro? Sure. Yeah, I do that all the time. As a bigger question, when people are asking, can I plug this violin straight into this thing, or do I need a preamp? The way you really find out is to just do it. Just plug your instrument in to that thing you're trying to plug it into. It's not going to hurt anything. The worst case scenario is you end up with an impedance mismatch, and it's going to sound really like stringy and kind of thin and strident. So you go, oh, wow, this doesn't sound fat or rich at all. I probably need a preamp. So yeah, you can try it. And the worst case is it's just not going to have the richness of sound that you really want. It is going to work, and you're not going to hurt anything. So that's that answer. I play on an AER 60 Compact, which is a really nice amp, by the way. Do you think that the Bose S1 Pro is better? 2 S1 Pro questions in a row. So this kind of gets to the question of what does better mean? The Bose S1 Pro is better for me because I often, when I'm doing a solo thing, I'm often playing with tracks, and those tracks have a lot of bass and a lot of drums in them. For me, the S1 Pro is better because it is a full range speaker and it's got a little more thump in it. Whereas the AER Compact 60 is a guitar amp and it's going to have a roll off in that bottom end. So when the 808s drop, it's not going to have that chest rattling sound that an S1 Pro will. The other thing I would look at is the S1 Pro has 2 combo jacks and an aux input, whereas the AER 60 has 1 combo jack, and then I forget what the other one is. So it's better for me. It may not be better for you. Maybe you're going to find that the tone you really like is what you get from that AER 60, and the Bose S1 Pro does not give you that tone that you want. So when we say better, really what you're asking, is it better for me in my specific situation? Because there's not really any such thing as better without a definition of what it is that you need. Does that make sense? How hard is it to resist making G-string jokes all day? I don't even try to resist. Sorry. I want an acoustic electric glasser, AEX, but the price is different in the video on the website. So one thing you have to look at is the date on the video. Prices do change, and as we know, in the world we live in, inflation and supply chain issues and all that, rising cost of everything, prices do change, and the prices have changed on the glassers. They have gone up. Nobody's dropping prices right now. So if you're watching a video from several years ago and you see one price on that video and you go to our website and you see another price now, the price has gone up. So it's unfortunate that that's the situation, but that's the situation. And it's one of the reasons that I've started not putting prices in the videos. Early on, I was doing that. And now I'm like, hey, there's a link right here. And I'll usually point to the wrong part of the screen. And we'll put a link up, and then you go to our website and find out what the actual price is at that time. Because when I first started doing these videos, I did not have the idea that you guys would be watching them 7 years later. So that's what's going on there. And then here's the last one we'll do today. Could a wah pedal come close to giving a violin a bagpipe type sound? And I'm not going to jump into bagpipe sounds or anything. I don't have a wah pedal hooked up at the moment. But the overarching question here is, when I'm trying to get a sound from my violin to match another instrument. Again, we'll go back to Rudolf Haken, professor of electric strings at University of Illinois. He draws the parallel between pipe organs and electric violins, and there's a lot of parallels there. But on a pipe organ, you'll have a stop that says flute or says, clarinet or whatever. And it was the attempt of the pipe organ maker to make that organ sound like a flute. Does it work? No, it doesn't sound anything like a flute. It's not going to fool anybody, but it sounds kind of cool, right? So it's maybe reminiscent of a flute, and maybe it has some of the same characteristics as a flute does. So you go, oh, yeah, okay, I could sort of plug the same musical hole with the flute sound in an organ that I could with an actual flute. Again, you're not going to fool anybody into thinking, oh my goodness, that must be a flute. But we can kind of plug the same hole, or we could maybe have a sound that has the same characteristics as that. So when I'm trying to match a sound, if I'm like, oh man, I really want to sound like a saxophone, I will write out some descriptions of what a saxophone sounds like. Okay, it's got a little bit of growl in it. It's got a little bit of bite, some edge to it. And then I will start to develop a violin sound that meets that same description. Am I going to fool anybody into think I'm playing a sax? I'm not, but I'm able to sort of plug that same musical hole. And I think maybe that's going to be helpful for you. I will say you can do a lot of stuff with a wah pedal. And I've done some things with a wah pedal where you don't actually wah with it. You just find that sweet spot in the sweep of the pedal and then leave it. And you can get some pretty cool tones with that. The other piece is you have to think about what is it, not just the sound that that instrument has, but what are the characteristics that it has because of the way that instrument has to be played, right? The way an organ sounds, if you're trying to duplicate an organ sound on the violin, remember organs can't bend their notes, most of them, right? So you don't want to be sliding into notes on your violin because that's not very organic. You want to sort of try to articulate notes on your violin the same way an organist would articulate notes. And that would be the same thing on this bagpipe thing. You'd have to think about, how do bagpipers articulate their notes? What are some bagpipey things that they do? A lot of those trills and you know, they can't really slide notes either. And of course there's that drone sound. So maybe with a looper, you could draw that drone, and then you could start trying to plug the same hole that a bagpiper would plug. Okay, so hey, that was a lot of fun. We answered a number of questions in 15 minutes, and I hope you guys have had some fun with that. You can subscribe to our channel. You can check out some other videos we've got here, and we'd love to see you next time.